are the gist, the kernel, the main part of the Ahlul Bayt. And we also affirm this. But we also affirm Aqil, the cousin of, or the brother of Ali, and Ja'far, the brother of Ali, and their children are Ahlul Bayt. And we also affirm Abbas, the uncle of the Prophet, and his descendants are Ahlul Bayt. For us, all of these lines are Ahlul Bayt, and we are not allowed to give charity to any of the Ahlul Bayt out of respect to them. We do not give zakat to any of the descendants of Fatima and Ali and Ja'far and Aqil and Abbas. All of these descendants for us are Ahlul Bayt, and as for them, they do not really consider the descendants of Abbas to be Ahlul Bayt, and others as well. There's a lot of rivalry between the the Shia to Ali and the al-Abbas for historical reasons. For us, the al-Abbas are also Ahlul Bayt. Now, as for Hussein ibn Ali, and he is the subject of our talk today. Hussein ibn Ali was born in Sha'ban of the 4th year of the Hijrah. Less than 1 year after Hassan was born. Hassan was born in Ramadan of the 3rd year. And barely had Fatima become cleansed of the delivery when she became pregnant again with Hussein. So Hassan and Hussein are less than a year apart. And there are many ahadith that our Prophet ﷺ praised Hassan and Hussein. And with regards to Hassan and Hussein, the Prophet ﷺ said, Hassan and Hussein are the leaders of the young men of paradise. Sayyida shababi ahlil jannah. And once he hugged the both of them, and he said, Huma rayhanatayya min ad-dunya. Hassan and Hussein are my two sweet flowers, fragrances of this world. Rayhanatayya, they bring me comfort, they're sweet, they're blessed. These are my two blessings in this world. And we affirm for them all that the Prophet ﷺ affirmed for them. Hussein was born in Medina, and he lived in Medina until Ali became Khalifa. And when Ali became Khalifa, he moved to Kufa. So Hussein moved to Kufa with him. And Hussein witnessed the two battles of Jamal and Siffin along with his old brother Hassan. And then Ali was assassinated, as you know, by the Khawarij. When Ali was assassinated, Hassan was given the oath of allegiance by the people of Kufa. And Muawiyah was given the oath of allegiance by the people of Syria. For the first time in the Muslim world, there were two Khalifas. Hassan on the one side and Ali and Muawiyah on the other. And Muawiyah and Hassan were about to go to war again, but Hassan resigned. Hassan, after 6 months, he resigned. And he did not want any further bloodshed, and so the Ahlul Bayt returned to Medina after Hassan's resignation, and Hussein moved to Medina, and he lived there until the death of Muawiyah in 60 AH, in 60 after the Hijrah, and Yazid coming to power, after which Hussein left Medina. So Medina, Kufa, Medina, and then he left Medina. And we'll talk about his leaving once we get to Yazid and how he came to power. There is no doubt that Hussein was greatly respected in his lifetime by all of the companions. Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As was once sitting in the shadow of the Kaaba, and he saw Hussein coming, and he said, "This man is the most beloved man on earth to the inhabitants of the heavens. There's nobody more beloved to those up there than this man." And this is coming from Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As. Now, let's talk a little bit about Yazid and the coming of power to Yazid before we get to now the problems between the two. We are all aware, vaguely, even though many of us have not studied this in detail, that towards the end of the time of the Khulafa al-Rashidun, civil war broke out between the Sahaba. And more Muslims lost their lives in this civil war in Jamal and Siffin than all of the Muslims who had participated in Ghazu against the Kuffar. More Muslims lost their lives in these two wars than all of the Muslims before this time fighting against the Sassanids and the Farisiyun and the Rum. All of those Muslims were less than the Muslims who died in Jamal and Siffin. It was a very traumatic civil war, and the quantity of Muslims that died was just horrendous. Now, as we said, when Hassan came to power in 41 Hijrah and Muawiyah came to power the same year, the two of them almost went to a third civil war, a third battle. There was Jamal, there was Siffin, there was going to be a third battle, bigger and more horrendous than the previous two. When, after much contemplation, Hassan said, no more blood is going to be spilled. Khalas, you wanted that bad, Muawiyah, take it. I will give up. And we as Ahl Sunnah believe that Hassan was more entitled to be the Khalifa than Muawiyah. And Hassan was more righteous than Muawiyah. But Hassan was also, because of his righteousness, he did not want to spill any blood. And so he voluntarily gave up, and the Kufiyun, the people of Iraq, had a difficult time accepting his own surrender because he's their leader. But he managed to quell them down, he managed to calm them down, and with a great deal of difficulty, the people of Iraq grudgingly decided to throw their towel in with the rest of the Ummah, and Hassan retired peacefully to where? To Medina. He retired to Medina. And Hussein, it is said, was not happy with his brother's decision. And he expressed this, but Hassan calmed him down and said this is better for the Ummah, and out of respect for his older brother, Hussein did not do anything while his brother was alive. And he also lived a quiet life, and Hassan died in 50 AH. 50 after the Hijrah, Hassan passes away in Medina. Now, after the death of Hassan, Yazid ibn Muawiyah was nominated by his own father to become the successor. And who is Yazid and who is Muawiyah? Yazid ibn Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan ibn Sakhr ibn Harb ibn Umayyah. Right? The Banu Umayyah. And the Banu Umayyah and the Banu Hashim were the most elite of the Quraysh. And even though they were cousins, there was also, as always the case between cousins and brothers, some type of rivalry between the two. And this is known throughout the seerah, and that is why when the Prophet ﷺ conquered Mecca, he made the house of Abu Sufyan one of the most noble houses, to give the honor to the Banu Umayyah, to give them the izzah that they wanted. And Abu Sufyan is of course Yazid's grandfather, right? Abu Sufyan is the leader. The Badr took place because of Abu Sufyan's caravan. Uhud, he was the leader, Abu Sufyan, right? So Abu Sufyan's grandson is Yazid. Abu Sufyan's son is Muawiyah. Muawiyah's son is Yazid. Yazid, by unanimous consensus of all the scholars of Islam, is not a Sahabi. He's not a companion. He was born in the year 26 Hijrah. 26 after the Hijrah. So more than 15 years after the death of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the first thing that we hear about him as a young man was that his father put him in charge of attacking the famous Roman city of Constantinople, Qistintiniya, which is now called Istanbul, the city of Constantinople. His father Muawiyah put Yazid as a young man in his 20s in charge of the army that will attack Constantinople in the heart of the Roman Empire. And it was in this battle that Abu Ayyub al-Ansari passed away. And that is why to this day Abu Ayyub al-Ansari, his grave is in one of the suburbs of Istanbul. To this day Abu Ayyub al-Ansari, his grave is in the suburb of Istanbul. Because it is said that when Abu Ayyub was about to die, he told Yazid that charge in as far as you can go, and wherever you get, just bury me there as close to the walls of Constantinople as you can. And that's exactly what Yazid did, that he charged in as far as he could go, and he then buried Abu Ayyub al-Ansari over there. Now, not ironically, but very interesting, Hussein actually participated as well in this ghazu. So Yazid and Muawiyah are Yazid and Hussein are on the same side, fighting against the Romans, and yet history would have a different turn 30, 40 years later. Now, there's also a hadith, by the way, that we need to be aware of about this incident, and it is reported in Bukhari. Our Prophet ﷺ said, the first army from my ummah to attack the city of the Caesar shall be forgiven. أول جيش يغزو مدينة قيصر مغفور لهم. The first army that shall attack the city of Caesar, which is Constantinople, shall be forgiven. And this is really the one blessing that we have to give to Yazid, that he was the leader of this army, and no doubt along with his other issues that we will talk about, and we are fair, we look at the good and the bad, the one positive that he has, and even Imam al-Dhahabi, who is overall very negative of Yazid, he says, with all of his evil, he got this one blessing. And that is the blessing of participating in the army of attacking Constantinople. Now obviously it was not successful and they came back, but it was the first attack on Constantinople. Now Muawiyah, after the death of Hassan, decided to nominate Yazid to be the Khalifa after him. And this issue has a lot of talk, pros and cons, which is beyond the scope of this class. And the bottom line that I will just say quite categorically, and there's no question about this, we firmly believe that there were far more people qualified to be the Khalifa than Yazid. That Ibn Umar was alive, Ibn Zubayr was alive, Hussein was alive, all of these people were alive. And it is something that we firmly believe that these people were more qualified and righteous. And yet, we also believe that it is allowed for a person of lesser stature to be the Khalifa in the presence of those who are of higher stature. This is called Imamatul Mafdul. A person who's of lesser stature is allowed to be the Khalifa. It's not the best, it's not ideal, it's allowed over those who are better than him. And we do not have to agree with Muawiyah's decision. This is a very fundamental point of Sunni theology. We respect the Sahaba in their Islam, but we do not have to agree with every political decision they made. We have to be very clear about this, right? We have every right to say, look, that wasn't the best decision.